Hello guys, welcome back to another stream. Today, I'm going to be doing a call-in stream because I want to get people's opinions on this. So if you guys do want to participate in this call-in stream, make sure to go in the link in the description down below and join the Discord server so you can get access to the voice call. I'll be basically dragging in people. If you're in a if you're in the voice waiting section, I'll just drag everybody in one by one so you guys can participate. I don't know if I'm going to get to everybody, but I'll try my best. And I'm going to be doing basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask people what they think the popular vote's going to be, and I'm going to ask them what demographic trends do you think is going to happen. So or whites, is Trump going to win whites by 20 or 15? Is Joe Biden going to win blacks by 40 or 30 points? What do you think is going to happen? That's basically what I'm going to ask everybody, and we're going to talk about what their number one issue is, what they think is going to happen, why they think a certain thing is going to happen um in terms of the election. Make sure, guys, before we get started, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, make sure to hit the post bell notification, and make sure to follow Twitter and join the Discord, of course, in the description down below. And I'm going to start looking at the chat and see who's in here. I'm going to go, let's see, I'm going to bring Alan in first. So we are going to bring in Alan. I believe, actually, I need to join the call again. So I will give me 1 second, guys. Hold on. Just give me a second. I have to do something really quick. I just realized I wasn't in the call. So give me 1 second. I'll be joining the call shortly, Alan. Hello, Alan. How you doing?
What's going on? How
Nothing
are you
much.
doing?
Just here, kind of, obviously we're doing a call in the first call in stream of the
Mm.
entire channel. We are currently at 7.6 thousand subscribers. So thank you everybody for basically supporting the channel, to the best of their ability. I greatly appreciate it. Guys, please make sure to hit the like button. We are at 24 viewers and there's currently 5 likes. So if you could get that up, I would greatly appreciate it. I want to try to get the viewers to match the likes as closely as possible. I know everyone's not going to hit it, but we can get as many people to hit that as possible. I would greatly appreciate it because it does help with the algorithm with these kind of spontaneous, streams that I do. So I would appreciate that, guys. So what's up, Alan? How you been?
Good, good. So I was wondering what kind of groups you think are going to shift the most left and the most right in the upcoming election.
Okay,
And
for
you can be, yeah,
what, I'm sorry? Okay, so what groups I think are going to shift most right and left this cycle? I
yeah.
think that college educated voters are still going to shift left. I think Biden will probably win a decent chunk of them. I think Trump may. It depends on how much votes are of K pools. It really depends. Now, overall, I think the age group of 18 to 29 is going to shift to the right. However, I don't necessarily know if the college educated group is going to shift. I know for sure white suburban women are 100% going to shift to the left. And I think white voters overall as a demographic, they may not shift to the left this cycle, but they're not going to shift as much as the other groups. Like they're going to trend to the left,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. And so really,
Sure.
if we're looking at this, we have this new model from 538, which I'm so happy that they did this because it's better than the other swingometer. They were using old demographics, so it was kind of wonky to use that on here. But now we can play around with these and they kind of match the 2020 results. So it's a lot better. And they include independents as well. So that's actually going to be a lot better in terms of what we're looking at here. So where do you think the popular vote is going to sit? Where do you think Biden and Trump are going to be at on election day? And where do you think the independent vote in total is going to sit at on election day overall? And where do you think the demographic shifts are probably going to end up happening?
All right. So here, I'm going to guess the popular vote environment. I'm going to guess most leaners right now are probably just going to be partisan and go back to the regular banks. So I'm gonna probably guess something like a Biden plus one, Biden plus two national environment.
Okay.
Um, I'm gonna guess that white working class voters from 2020 shift back to their 2016 numbers.
So you'd say that
Um,
so you'd probably say Roughly, where would that be? So, like, for example, like the male vote, like, because there's 18 to 29.
Hmm.
If you're looking at the screen, you could see 18 to 29, 30 to 34, 45 to 64, 65 plus. You have college, non-college, you have female, male, under 30K, 30 to 60, 60 to 100, 100K or more for income. And then race, you have Asian voters, black, Hispanic, other, and
Hmm.
white. That's basically what you have for your options.
Right.
That's also for everybody that's tuning into the call-in show as well. This is what I'm going to be asking you guys, and so you guys could kind of, that's basically your options all here in terms of the demographics that can be played around with, pretty much.
Yeah. Sure. So, I don't want to do like every single one of them because that'd take forever. I would guess that 18, 29 probably shifts the most right. I think 65 plus might be like R plus 9 instead of R plus 11.
Okay, so nine, what do
Uh,
you think 18 to 29 is going to be at? Roughly,
mm,
good to give or take.
I'm gonna say like D plus. If it's 29, I might say they might just go to like 19 or 18 or something like that.
Okay, we'll put it at 18. So that already puts Trump winning Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona pretty much.
Yeah.
What about
See, males.
hmm?
I'm gonna say males at R plus. I'm gonna think it goes to R plus 8 for males. Females probably D plus 15.
Okay. That basically puts Nevada and Michigan back into Biden's column, but Trump picks up Pennsylvania in this scenario. What do you think about like racial demographics and things like that? What do you
All
think
right.
that's going to look like?
Racial black voters, I'm gonna say go to like a lot of people think they're gonna shift big. I don't necessarily anticipate that. I do think they will shift a little bit, maybe some like 70 D plus 77 maybe. Um, Hispanic, I could see like D plus. If it's like 37 on there, I could see something like D plus like 25.
Okay. So that puts Trump winning Nevada now. And then with white voters, where do you think that shifts?
They're probably going to be around the same. Maybe the college educated voters will shift it to like R plus 12, but I'm going to guess it's about the same.
Okay, so basically that puts Trump winning all the major swing states. He wins Nevada, he wins Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. That's roughly where he sits at all of the states. And if we look at the margins in these, we can actually see Wisconsin's almost a 5 point win. Pennsylvania is about a 3 point win. Arizona is a pretty comfortable win. He actually wins Arizona by 7 points. He wins Georgia by seven.
Yeah.
He wins North Carolina by about 8 here. And he's winning Michigan by about two and change. So even with your minimal shifts, he's already winning the electoral college by a considerable amount. And not only that, he's winning the swing states by a pretty good amount too. Like he's winning them pretty comfortably in terms of today's
Yeah.
standards. He's not winning them by small margins. It's definitely that's a pretty big victory for it just being, like just 312. There are no tilt states for the Republicans on this map or
Yeah.
for Donald Trump. So he ends up winning the election pretty comfortably at 312 to 226 in your case. But in terms of my presidential model here, his you see his current approval rating minus 15.7. That's Biden's current approval rating. You'd say Biden probably be at like a basically he'd be at like -2, so something like that. Like he's at a -2. It's basically Biden plus 2, and the swing of the popular vote would be 2.5 in that scenario. And based out of the current demographics, which I are kind of similar to yours, but I have black shifting a little bit more to the right and things like that, and whites kind of actually shift to the left with my demographics. I kind of have to update those because basically my model factors in the 2016 results, 2020, the swing from 2016 and 2020, the trend, and it factors in all the polling averages, and then the demographic pool is basically from this model, what was the margin based out of these demographics? So demographics also get included into this model as well. So I think that's also something important to look at too. Um,
Yeah.
and so pretty much based out of what you said, we can go state by state here. I'm going to be here for a while, so I'll have a couple callers in here so we can take our time with this. It really doesn't matter. But basically we start at Alabama. He's obviously winning that safe. If we look at Alaska, he's winning that by 13 points, so it's not safe. Arizona is a 4.5 point win. If we look at Arkansas, he's winning that by a safe margin. California is a 21-point victory. He's winning Colorado by 12 points. If you look at Connecticut and Delaware, they are both still safe states. And again, that's part of Biden basically doing really well with basically doing somewhat well with some white voters, pretty much. That's the only reason why he's actually still winning those by safe margins for the most part. DC is still obviously going to be safe. Florida is R plus 13. What do you think about that? Do you think that is roughly where it would sit at, per se?
It's possible.
Okay,
It's possible.
right.
If we're seeing the shifts like they've
Georgia,
not only 2022, but even
funny
with the
enough,
national right
funny
now.
enough,
Yeah.
Georgia is actually shifting, is actually more left here than Arizona by like 2 points. And I think the reason for that is that because Hispanics are shifting the most to the right because of like just demographic trends overall with Trump and the border. And I feel like Arizona and Texas margins may be a little bit inflated. So I think the only reason why Texas may vote to the right of Florida again, possibly, is literally just because of the border. I think if it wasn't for the border, Florida would be significantly to the right of Texas this cycle, but I
Yep.
don't think that's the case. Look at Maryland, Massachusetts, those are big wins. Indiana, those are big wins. Iowa is a 14, basically almost 14-point victory for the former president. Kansas is a 17-point win. If you look at Kentucky, that's safe. Basically, Louisiana safe. Maine is a 13-point victory as of right now. If you look at Maine at
Mm.
large, Biden's doing pretty good there. And that's mainly because it's a D+2 national environment. And also,
Yep.
Biden is doing well with white voters according to my
Right.
demographics. So he's going to retain some of his coalition from 2020. However, I feel like it's probably not going to be enough. Illinois still actually goes down to a 10-point margin for him. So that's pretty good as well. If we keep going over here, Hawaii's a 22-point win. If we go down, we could see that Michigan is a 2-point victory for Trump, so he's probably going to end up winning the electoral college here. Minnesota is almost a 5-point win here. It's very close to being a 5-point win. We could see we keep going. These I've already filled out. Nebraska second flips Republican here, by the way. So that's also interesting considering to factor in, especially since it's an R+2 national environment. Nevada is a 5-point win with D+2 Biden, which I actually don't think would be that off because Nevada is not that much of a populated
Yep.
state. So if Trump
Hmm.
were to just do way better in Clark County, which I think he is, he probably is close to winning it by 5. So I don't think that
Yeah.
may be that off necessarily.
Yeah. It's
New
interesting because
Jersey is still
A lot of the
New
on the
Jersey. Yep.
538.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's actually interesting with a lot of the swing state margins that you gave when we use my demographic margins or whatever. The polls for the swing states back in 2020 were pretty off.
Right.
This is 538, so I used the same site. Wisconsin was Biden plus 8.4. That obviously did not happen.
By the way,
Um,
just FYI, this
yeah.
model basically goes off the current polling. This does not predict the
Mhm.
popular vote, it merely predicts the electoral college. And what I did is I actually tested the model to 2020 and I provided
Yeah.
adjusters to correct some of the margins here. And so
Yeah.
effectively, what ends up happening is you see RCP Biden's lead that day was minus 7.2. The swing of the popular vote is negative 3.74 in this direction because it was 2.1, or at least that it, yeah, okay. Well, that we have minus 12 approval rating. That was Trump's negative approval rating on election day. And you have the actual results polling average 2012, 2016. The demographic thing is the only thing I have not included on the old model, but it gives my model some kind of framework to work around for the most part. That way it's not a completely baseless model. Because it wouldn't make sense to make a new model and be like, oh well, it should be accurate, and if you haven't tested it. So
Yeah.
we'll keep going. North Carolina is about a 7-point victory for Trump. He wins it by about 7 points. If we look at New Jersey, he's actually only winning it by 9. That's mainly because the polling average there is probably really pulling the state back. The only poll there has Biden up by 6 in a 1-to-1 matchup. So the polling average is probably really pulling him back. New Mexico is slightly above a 5-point victory. I think it's a 5.2 percentage point victory. New York is just above the safe categorization. It's right above it. It's a 15-point win. If you look at
That's right.
Ohio, it's almost a 15-point margin. He almost wins Ohio by 15. It's really close. If we look at, we'll keep going. Pennsylvania is about a 3-point win. Oregon is right below the safe category. I think Washington will be safe though. Yeah, it's literally right above 15 points. And we have the last three states here, or last four. Rhode Island is a 17-point win for Biden, so he's doing pretty good there. And if we look at Texas, he's winning it by about 11. So Trump's actually doing better in Florida than Texas here. And then if we look at, for example, let's go to Wisconsin, Trump's winning that by 4 points. And Virginia is a 6-point win for Biden. So pretty much the electoral college result pretty much stays the same. And Nevada, you could kind of play around with the margins just because it's right above the 5-point margin, so it may be off by like a couple points here and there. So you could say it could be lean or likely, but based out of your popular vote margin, this is what my model would give for the electoral college. So Trump is still winning the election fairly easily.
Yep.
He's still winning pretty easily. So that's really what we're looking at right now. Biden still does good in Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia, and a couple other places, but Trump is basically killing him in the swing states for the most part. So that's roughly what we're looking at in terms of the electoral college per se. So that's basically it, man. So thank you for joining in the call. I am going to bring
Yeah.
in somebody else. So I really do
Yep.
appreciate it, and you have a good one, man.
You have a good night too. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, so the next person I'm going to bring in is I'm going to bring in your local. I don't know how to say the last word. Hello?
What up?
What's up, man?
Uh,
Is
this is
this
Sleepy Dog here.
stream
Your
good?
favorite little biggest.
What happened? What'd you say?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Hello, how are you doing?
So far so good. I just got another phone call for an internship at another interview. These last days have been very, very busy.
Oh, well, I mean, that's good. Well, hopefully you do get it actually. Flammy Bird Drake says, "Hello, on Point Politics and call-in stream." Yes, I am doing a call-in stream, so if you want to see what's going on, please make sure.
Oh, I'm watching it right now.
Hillman says there's echo. Ooh, that's not good. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, there was some heckle with the island.
there was. That's weird. Because I only have. Well, that's weird. There should, because I don't have
Kind
a.
of weird because
I
I'm
don't have
rocking an HyperX Podcast S with a World PSA 1 as boom arm, so.
Oh, I don't know. Well, I mean, that might have been it. Maybe it was that he was watching the video at the same time, but I didn't even hear the video in the background. So if you guys still hear the echo, please let me know because there shouldn't be any. Um, Interesting. All
Yeah.
right, well, we're gonna keep going here. So
Yeah.
basically, exact same thing as the last caller, Alan. So I'm resetting the demographics back to 2020. So where do you estimate the popular vote to be, and where do you think what demographic margins would you say for some of these? You don't have to go over all of them, but we could go over like the main ones, like age,
For the numbers,
education,
I'm
and
not exactly sure, but I can throw a few curveball on some of them because on the Democratic side, particularly regarding the uncommitted vote. For those who don't know, like a few months back during the Michigan primaries, there was like in protest for Gaza, there was this uncommitted vote, and normally you will dismiss this because it's only a few. It's only on a social issue 8 months ahead of the elections. But no, that on the primary, like primary for the candidates of the Democratic Party, the uncommitted votes managed to win by like.
give me 1 second because they're saying that the echo is like really bad. I honestly
Jeez.
don't know what would be causing it because there's an echo for the call in people. It sounds like they're coming in through twice. That's so weird. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I don't know
it
why.
must be
Oh, hold
through
on.
your.
You know what it is? Wait, you know what it might be? You know what I just realized? I got it now. It's fixed, guys. I just realized I forgot to turn off the screen capture on the thing. Guys, let me know in the chat if it should be good because I feel like it should be better now because I just turned off things so he can only be picked up on my mic now. So you won't be able to hear his voice coming in from my computer anymore. So let me know, but it should be good now.
All All right, probably, probably.
Just talk into the
Let me
mic. Make
see.
sure you talk into the mic though. So pretty much.
Yeah.
So what were you gonna say for the margins for some of these?
Um, hold on. Okay, right there. For the black race, I like to tell it down to maybe like 75 instead of 82 because there's still we you discussed before of the immigration, the whole border issue, but there's another one specifically in New York, which is the whole crime issue. Like you saw a lot of rise and violent crimes,
Mm-hmm.
officers being killed, and a lot of them, shockingly or unsurprisingly, was a lot of them was just like just released with no bail.
Right. Yes, that is.
And yeah, many of them were like repeat offenders. So not only so suffice to say, the violent crime rate is pretty nefarious in New York's, and I can see the black people, some of them be like, okay, maybe I'm gonna want to exercise my rights that have been restored since the Bruin decision, and that's where I think the Republican Party might pick up a point because the Democrats are staunchly anti-gun or anti-Second Amendment. So yes, I know New York is going to be a safe blue state for for a while, but I think for Pete's sake, I might put New York on the likely the instead of safety.
That's what I'm
If you,
thinking too. That's also what I'm thinking is gonna happen. I think it's gonna be under 15 points, but we'll
yeah,
really kind
there
of
are
have.
already some counties in New York that I think are staunchly Republican, so maybe that could expand not enough to make New York flipping it to reds, but probably to make it a little more likely instead of safe.
Right. And what do you think, for example, like for Hispanics in the white vote, where do you think that's gonna roughly shift?
Oh, that's 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 a pretty good mess, if you will, because on one hand, you do notice that the Hispanic gots they really began voting Republicans, but it's kind of hate, love and hate relationship
Hmm.
because there's still like this persecution of minorities. So it depends of who is going to vote. Or, but suffice to say that those who are already there probably got there, have been there for years, generation upon generations. I
Hmm.
can see them voting staunchly Republican because the damn American is like their home.
So based out of the margin on the swingometer, where do you think right now the
Uh,
mob has it at D plus 37 from 2020? Where do you think that would roughly sit now?
33, maybe.
You think it's gonna be at like 33? Okay, so that flips
Yeah.
Arizona. And what do you think about the white vote overall?
Ooh. Um. Oh boy. Moving on. I'm still searching my words.
No, 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 it's okay.
Um. Regarding Pennsylvania, however, at right now it's projected to be a tilted blue. I'd say flip it red because John Fetterman is like in recent months has been like he came out as more right wings and ironically because in the 22 midterms everybody was like voted for Fetterman because he had a lot of influx of votes from the left.
Right.
So but and now coming out for the 2036 midterms, I can see Pennsylvania flipping red like it did in 2016.
Hmm. Okay. But where do you think the white vote margin is roughly going to shift per se? Right now it's R plus 13 right now.
Let's keep it like this because on one hand, you definitely have no shortage of white people who's going to be Republican, but you also have a lot of white people motivated to vote for the Democrats for various other
Right.
reasons.
What do you think about like the female and male margins? Where do you think those are going to sit? Right now it's R plus.
Female, they definitely raise that up. Definitely raise that up to like 18 or maybe 20%
Okay, so
because
that puts Biden at 319. What do you think about the male vote?
keep it like this.
Keep it like
Keep it
that?
like yes.
Okay. Well, that and what about college? What do you think about college educated and non-college? What are you thinking about those? Right now it has non-college at R plus 7. It has college at 24 points for the Democrats.
On college, I gotta ask you, does it take into account those war? Does it include those war and trade schools?
I would believe so. I think it would because college when they polled this, you have to be enrolled in like a university, I believe. So I think it does include. Yeah, I think it does.
I think it to like maybe 9 or 10%,
For
because
non-college?
yeah,
Okay.
for non-college, yes.
Okay, and what about college?
Keep it like this.
Okay.
24% is already a pretty sin.
Okay. And what are you thinking about in terms of like age groups? What do you think about like 18 to 29, for example?
Um, for 1829, remember when I was talking about the Gaza, about the
Mhm.
Palestine situation? Like
Right.
on the one hand, like these people, these people which are in my group, I'm 22 years old. There's a lot of them who are not going to vote Republican because they are so pro-Israel. But at the same time, as I mentioned, there's the uncommitted vote protest, which managed to pull like 20% on the Michigan primary. So
Mhm.
if they don't vote Republicans, they're probably gonna vote for a third party.
Right. So
Probably burn.
right now,
So
right now it's D
maybe I
plus
would put
29.
D plus 21.
Okay, so you think like D plus 21. All right. That puts Trump winning Arizona, but that puts Biden, based out of the demographics you've touched and have said, except for like income basically, and these, it currently has Biden winning the electoral college barely because he wins the Rust Belt and he wins Nevada. The only two flips so far, Arizona and Georgia. Now, where do you think the popular vote is going to sit this cycle? Where do you think that's going to be sitting at?
The popular vote is definitely gonna sit up for Trump.
Okay, what do
Uh,
you think that's going to
the
be?
same way that everybody knew in 2020 that Biden was not perfect, but everybody voted a regardless, because back then it was commonplace to do dump on Trump. Now in 2024, this is the other way around. It's not commonplace to do on Biden, not just from the conservative perspective, but also from a very progressive standpoint. Like, remember, it's under Biden administration that Roe v. Wade was overturned. So from the left standpoint, there's a lot of frustration to be among the Democrat about the demographic.
Okay. So you think that Trump, what do you say, like he wins it by 1, 2, 3, 4 points? Where do you think would be?
I'd say he's gonna be in like no no less than in the 52%, but I wouldn't be surprised if he wins by like 56.5 on the popular vote
56%?
maximum. But I'd say the sweet spot is will be
Right,
in
but
the
what do
50.
you think, like, okay, like, is it gonna be R plus one? That would be like 50 to 49. And then like R plus two is like 51 to 49.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm
So
trying to ask you. Right.
mm, that's moving on.
Okay.
I'll leave that to somebody else who is, because because from my understanding, if you go below 50%, like you're you're the one losing the popular vote.
No, that's not how it works. Somebody could be at 48% and the other candidate's at 46.
Okay, so adjusting that, I'd say it's gonna be a near 51.
Okay, but like what do you think Biden gets? So he's at 51. What do you think Biden
Yeah,
gets?
Biden, 47,
Okay, so he's
47.
winning the popular vote by 4. Okay, so that's what it is. He's winning it by 4.
Okay.
So pretty much
Uh,
4.5 plus 4, that's going to be 8.5. So the popular vote ends up swinging 8.5. So if he's winning the popular vote by 4, based with off of my demographics, Trump is winning the electoral college very easily.
you can thank the uncommunity vote for that, and the fact that Ron RFK Jr. is now running independent. So there's been a lot of breakdown from the Democrat Party,
Right.
and that certainly doesn't help. Like, even before that, it was already poised to be a very close race, and now he's losing some of that vote. Like, not by much, but like 3% there, 3% that.
Right.
Like,
Well, based
dude,
out of your
I'm talking out of my own spite. Let me
what
speak.
happened?
You think I'm not watching the chat, Patrick?
Oh.
talking shit about me.
All right. Well, basically, well, pretty much based out of like all of the states, like so far, based out of like all the states that are voting here and like what popular vote you pretty much told me to put, Biden's going to be winning the or Trump, excuse me, is going to be winning the electoral college very easily. He's actually going to be winning it by, well, we're going to finish it here, but I basically what I'm looking at right now. He's winning Colorado by 6. Biden's ahead in Colorado by 6 points. He is currently at, let's see, 16 points for Biden right now. If we look at Maine at large, Trump's actually flipping Maine at large. He actually flips it by like a tilt margin. It's almost a point, but he barely ends up winning it. And if we look at a state like Illinois, for example, Biden actually falls under 5 points there. So he's down. He's only winning it by like 4 in this scenario. And if we look at, for example, let's keep going here to some of the blue states over here. Rhode Island, Biden is only up by like 11, and it's probably more than likely all of these would be likely too. If we go to like Connecticut, Biden's up by 10, Delaware, he's up by 12. In New Jersey, I'm actually curious. Oh, he's actually down by, he's only up by 3 points. And if we go to, for example, like Virginia right now, Biden's only up by a tilt margin here. So Trump is going to be winning the electoral college here pretty easily. Arizona is a 10-point win for him. If we go to Minnesota, Trump's actually winning Minnesota here. And if we go to Michigan, he's winning that by a couple points. If we look at, for example, Arizona, he's winning that by 12. So that's a likely margin. What do you think about this so far?
That's that's a
This is based on my
yeah.
model, by the way. New Hampshire is also tilt as well, and Nebraska second is like a likely margin. So far he's doing pretty good here.
Yeah.
Yeah, based out of like the popular vote that you said. So pretty much Trump is winning the electoral college in an electoral landslide in this scenario at least. If we look at Nevada, Nevada is an 11-point win, and New Mexico actually ends up, I think New Mexico, let's go find it. He actually flips New Mexico. So he's currently in this scenario, he would win with 330 electoral votes to 201. That's basically where he sits right now. Pretty much. That's roughly where he sits. So thank you so much for the call and I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
I'll definitely
Also, I'll definitely consider doing political content career on the Canadian politics. So feel free to support me on this one
thank you. I appreciate it. Well,
if you want to, including on the Quebec politics.
right.
Next,
Well, I'll see. Okay, so the next person I'm gonna go to is Retard Rob. Hello, Retard Rob.
Yo,
What's up, man? How you doing?
pretty good. How are you?
I'm
Do
good.
I go into this thing or what?
Well, excuse me?
The it says voice chat room one.
Hold on. Hold on. Wait, let me see something.
Join voice.
All right, so the next caller, we're gonna do Jimmy for the next
Get
caller.
kicked out.
Hello, hi Jimmy. Hello, yeah.
I didn't expect to.
Yeah, no,
God,
he didn't
let me mute the stream.
he didn't seem like he knew what he was talking about. So I just yeah. How you
Oh
doing?
yeah,
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
So
Are
basically
we talking about?
we're
Go on.
basically talking about the same things as before, pretty much. Same exact thing that I've been asking the other two callers. So that's pretty much what I'm going over. So what do you think in terms of like, age groups, college, non-college, the demographics for Hispanics and like the age group, where do you think those are going to be sitting at?
Well, for one, I think Biden's gonna lose support in the younger voters
Okay.
because people are delusional when it comes to Israel and Gaza. Like, for one, I've seen some people chant "fuck the Jews"
Yeah.
because and they're delusional.
Hey, just
And I
hold on.
think a lot
Try to be
I think
careful.
a lot of
Yo, yo,
those
yo,
voters
Jimmy. Try to be careful with the language just because like I'm monetized, so I don't want to get like demonetized. That's the only thing.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're good. I just don't want to. I mean, I don't know. From my understanding,
I'll
if there's
be. I'll be.
yeah, from what I understand, if there's like one word or whatever, like it's not a big deal, but like if there's a lot, it's gonna be a problem. So just like tone it down the language. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay.
all right.
And with younger voters, they're pro Palestine.
Okay.
And the stuff that happened on October 8th is really gonna hurt Biden. I
Okay.
really don't see how he can gain support back from younger voters.
No, I don't think that he's going to. No, I don't think so either. I think he's gonna lose a lot of support with them. Actually, I actually think Biden's probably gonna only win them by a few points. I think it's gonna be within single digits. I actually think he's gonna massively struggle with those. I think he's gonna have a really big problem with them. That's why this demographics
You
are so.
have to
That's why those
understand.
demographics are so skewed in favor of it not being him. Like they're super skewed in his favor, basically, or like in Trump's favor, pretty much.
Yeah. And
That's
by the way, I also have a question.
yeah. What's up?
So, you know how in some polls Biden is leading in the senior vote? What do you think of that?
Well, I think there is going to be a shift there. I think he probably does actually gain with plus 65 voters because you got to understand the seniors from 30 years ago are not the seniors from now on. And real Americans actually talked about this. He basically has said, like, okay, the people who were the hippie generation are now the 65 plus voters, and they tend to kind of lean a little bit more liberal. So it makes sense for the senior vote to get a little closer, and also because they just don't like Trump. So that's a combination. Now, do I think Biden's gonna win the senior vote? Probably not, because I think the whole LGBTQ thing's really gonna screw that up. I think his chances of winning the 65 plus vote is really not gonna work out. But I think it might get closer. I think it instead of being R plus 11, I think it may be like Trump plus 8, probably. Like it is gonna get closer. And for future cycles, that may be a problem for Republicans. Democrats may start getting really close, or at least being competitive with that group once Trump leaves the ballot, or if they don't find a good successor for Trump. That's going to be a big issue. So,
Yeah. And I think the problem for Republicans is that middle-aged women and senior voters are shifting towards the Democrats.
right.
Why do I think that? Well, they look at Trump's indictments and criminal cases. Some voters think that that's bad.
Hmm.
And people they think of that and they're like, nah, I don't want to vote a criminal. And it's just like, okay. So they're probably gonna shift left this cycle because of January 6th, because of the criminal cases. And this is for middle-aged women only, but for Roe v. Wade, I think maybe a few percentage points will get better for Biden with
Okay.
middle-aged women.
Right. Okay. All right.
What I'm saying is that if Biden somehow wins the election,
Right.
it'll be through older voters.
Right, yeah. I
But
think that would be the case, but I don't know because you gotta also understand too, they tend to be very severely underpolled. That's also the problem too. Now, do I think Biden might gain? Maybe, but if Biden is only leading them, is down with them by like 8 points or 7 points, Trump probably wins them by more than he did before because they get severely underpolled. That's the issue.
yeah,
That's also one of the
yeah,
reasons why.
I'd have to
That's also one of the
agree.
reasons why the
I'd have to
polls
agree. Biden winning. Oh, go on,
you
go
got to
on.
understand too, that's why the midterm polls tend to be a little bit more accurate and kind of in favor of Republicans during midterms, is because of the fact that there is a younger electorate in midterms. And so what ends up happening is a lot of 65 plus voters don't have access to new technology that polling companies use to do polling, or they just don't trust the pollsters. It's either or. So a lot of older people don't get polled. and they tend to be more Republican leaning. But in midterms, it doesn't matter because number one, they don't care about no midterm, and number two, the electorate is way younger, so there's less room for error in those polls. That's the main issue.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. I think Biden winning older voters by 10 foot. Sorry. By 10 points is absurd.
No,
I think
there's no way. That's not gonna happen.
there's no way he wins older voters by 10 points. I think there's still
I don't
more
even think he'll
traditional
be able to
than
win them. I think he could get close, like on a good day. Maybe it's within 5, but I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think so.
yeah.
I really
Yeah.
don't think so.
And
So based on what you've talked about, like for the margin right now for 2020, according to this model on my screen, it has Biden winning them by 29 points. What do you think that number margin is going to be?
the 18 to 29-year-old,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, for one, is that the 2020 vote?
Yes, it is. So right now it's at D plus 29. That's what it's at.
Well, I think you should mess with the turnout and put it at 40% because we all know people are pissed at Biden
Okay.
for what's happening.
Right.
And I think he would probably win them by 19 points.
Okay, so Biden wins them by 19. That already puts Trump winning the electoral college. He already wins Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona back, and pretty comfortably, it seems. He's probably winning them by a few points here. If we actually go look, he probably is. If we look at Wisconsin, oh, actually not yet, but he's pretty close. In Arizona, he's winning it by half a point, and he's winning Georgia by almost a point. So that's basically what we're looking at there. And
Yeah.
so for senior voters, what do you think the margin's going to be at for Biden or for Trump?
Can you scroll up so that I can see it?
It's literally right there. It's right here. See 65 plus. Right here.
Let me refresh my screen real quick. I was a little bit behind.
Oh, okay. By the way, guys, if you guys do want to participate in the call-in stream, please make sure to go down in the description and join the Discord. It seems like I only have one other call. Okay, okay, Connor's in here. Okay, that's good. So I'll put him in next. But for sure, I'm gonna do Connor, and then like if anybody else in the chat wants to join the Discord, you can for sure join as well, so we could get people to do call-ins. So okay, right now, so I have it. It's right now it's R plus 11 for 65 plus. So where do you think that's gonna be at?
Well, one, I think with the stuff happening with Trump right now, I don't think turnout goes really down. I think they're more inclined to vote in elections.
Right,
So
especially
I would
if
just
there's a
say
sweep.
81 for turnout,
Okay,
just like a little bit down.
yeah, 81.
I'd say maybe R plus 7.
Okay. That puts Trump
or
basically.
R plus
It was
8.
funny because that 1 point in turnout actually gave Trump Pennsylvania. If we go back to like this, that 1% margin, I think I think basically gave him Pennsylvania or something. I think it did. It was like right there.
Yeah.
Right now you have it at 7, you said?
Yeah, so he's 7 for Trump
Right.
and 81% turnout.
Right.
Maybe
So that puts
65.
Trump again 272 for non-college and college. What do you think the margins are going to be for that?
I'd say maybe 10 points or 12. I really don't know what's going to happen in the non-college vote, mainly because you have white voters and non-white voters in that column.
Right.
And they're like different groups. With college educated voters, they're a much smaller group, and that's more predictable. But non-college, I'm gonna go with my gut and probably say 10 points for Trump, and the turnout would probably be 58.
Okay.
59.
Okay. And what about college?
College educated voters. You know, I think Biden has probably hit a peak with them,
Right.
maybe.
Right.
There might be still some room to gain from them.
Okay.
I'm probably just going to say a 2-point swing and a 1% turnout decrease.
Okay. So like the margin, do you think it's going to be it's a swing in favor of him or against him?
What do you mean by him? Like
Oh,
Trump or
Biden.
Wait, Biden.
Okay, so in
Well,
favor
he'll
or
gain
against?
2 points.
Okay.
I think he'll gain like 2 points in college voters. I'm not saying it's going to be a lot like 2020,
Right. But right. So he picks up Nevada now that we shifted that. For like female and male categories, what do you think the margin's going to be there? Right now it has it at R+4 in 2020 and Biden is winning female by 13 here.
well, for one, female voters are trending to the left,
Right.
while male voters
Trending
are
to
trending to the right.
right.
You know, since Roe v. Wade was overturned, I guess he would shift that demographic by 4 points.
Okay.
Biden.
So that puts him winning the election again where he was in 2020. What about the male vote?
Well, the male vote, yeah, I'm gonna say that it's gonna trend right. There's really no debate on that.
Right.
Because there's a gender divide in worldwide politics. And,
Right.
you know, I'm gonna say that it's gonna shift 4 points to the right, which puts Trump at 8%.
Okay, so you think it's going to go up to like 8. That puts Trump winning again.
Yeah.
So that kind of offsets all the
Yeah.
gains that the female vote would make. So in order for Trump to win the election, he has to gain massively with male voters, which I think he will. I think he is. And in terms of like the
Yeah.
racial demographics, where do you think that's going to sit at per se? Right now, blacks are.
Wait, what did you?
Excuse me.
Blacks or Latinos?
Okay, well, right now,
Did you just say race?
race and ethnicity. Okay, so right now it has blacks at D+82, Hispanics at D+37, and whites at R+13. That's what it has it at. So where do you think that's gonna shift?
Well, I think that Trump is probably going to gain. This might be a hot take,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Trump is going to gain more with black voters than Latino voters.
Okay.
And so I'm going to say that Trump has a 5-point swing among black voters,
Okay.
which is like 77%.
Right, yeah, it's right about there. And then
Yeah.
Hispanics, what do you think that's gonna be at?
I'd probably say like this is a hard one. I'm gonna say a 3-point shift for Trump.
Okay, so he shifts them by 3 points, and then the white vote, do you think it's gonna shift left or right, or where do you think that's gonna kind of go?
Well, it's hard to predict the white vote. I mean, most liberals are saying that it's gonna shift left. It's gonna shift left, while some conservatives are saying it's gonna shift right. It's gonna shift right.
Mhm.
You know, it's really hard to predict the white vote because you either have suburban folks living near the cities or you have people living in rural areas that are
Right.
white.
Right.
And but you know, I'm just gonna say 12. Wait, hold on. I'm just gonna say a 1-point shift for Biden in that group.
Okay.
Just
that,
a 1-point shift.
So that flips Nevada and Pennsylvania back towards him. So right now, basically, based out of your demographics, Trump is winning Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona back, and that's it. That's literally all he gets back.
Yeah.
So he's barely winning. In terms of the
Yeah,
top,
but wait. Can we hold up? Can we edit like more groups if I can? Or
Well, pretty much the only groups that are left are the income groups. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd actually want to speak on that. Like, 100K or more, I think they're doing, I think the higher income people are doing better under Biden,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
but the lower groups are doing
A lot.
shittier
Yeah.
today.
Right, they're doing a lot worse. So,
Yeah.
right. So you could say maybe.
So I'm just gonna say 100K or more
Right.
shifts left by 2 points.
Okay.
60 to 100K.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say a 2 point shift for Trump.
All right.
30K to 60K. I could see Trump flipping that group. Let's put it at like R+2,
All right.
and under 30K, D+7.
Okay. So that gives Trump Nevada and Pennsylvania back. So now that has Trump winning 297 to 241. So based out of this, where do you think the popular vote's roughly going to sit? It basically says it basically has it at Biden +2 right now, pretty much, and he's winning all the swing states except Michigan, and it's probably really close at Michigan. If we go look, yeah, it's within a point basically. It's literally a 0.8 percentage point.
Yeah.
It's really close. So based out of that, where do you think the popular vote's
Yeah.
actually gonna sit at? Like, what would your prediction be for the popular vote, pretty much?
That's a hard one to decide because most third parties, they don't really do well. We saw in 2016 with Gary Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't do well compared to polling. And RFK Jr. getting 10% in the polls, I just don't see that happening due to me watching elections. I just don't think it'll happen. But you know, upsets can happen, I guess.
Right.
But for now, I'm gonna say that RFK Jr. is probably gonna get 4%. Gary Johnson numbers, I guess,
Okay.
except
So,
in New Mexico, because
right. Yeah. So.
and Cornell West and Jill Stein.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard one to decide because they're basically the same candidates with the same ideologies, and it kind of hurts Biden.
Right. Okay.
So
So you
what
think? All right.
I'm gonna say is that they're both gonna get 2% respectively.
Okay. So you think that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So pretty much as of right now. So you say that what do you think the popular vote margin would be at in terms of like who's winning and who's like is it Trump +2, Biden +2, Biden +1? Where do you think that's gonna roughly sit at?
I'm probably gonna. This is probably gonna be a hot opinion, but since Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016, I don't see Trump winning it again. Oh
Okay.
wait, he never did. My bad,
No,
my
no, he
bad.
never. Right, yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, I don't see Trump winning the popular vote. I think he's gonna get it way closer because of states like California, New York,
Right.
Florida, maybe potentially Texas. Flexus isn't gonna happen soon, so
No, no. So you
yeah.
think maybe he wins it by like a point or something? Like Biden wins it by like a point?
Texas?
No, 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 no. Like the popular vote.
I could see that happening.
So if we were to put that into my that's a 3.5 shift to the right, and that puts Trump winning the electoral college pretty much. That he basically
Yeah.
he wins all the swing states, and he's almost winning Wisconsin by 5, and he's winning Nevada by about 6. So thank you very much for the call, and I am going to be moving on to the next caller.
No problem.
So I'll see you very, very soon. So next caller is data analyst Connor, who I've been working with, who's been helping me construct election models for this cycle. So Connor, are you there? I have you added into the call. You're currently oh, there you go.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What's up, man?
Hey, not much. How are you?
Doing good. Just asking everybody the same two questions for this call-in stream. So, where do you think the demographics are gonna lie in, and where do you think the popular vote is roughly gonna sit at as of right now?
My opinion on that is I don't know exactly where those are going to lie.
Okay.
All I know is that in all likelihood, especially among uh, the non-educated whites, especially in the Midwest and the Rust Belt,
Mm-hmm.
Trump's probably going to expand with those. I don't know what the turnout is going to be among that group, but I am fairly certain that Trump is going to do better by a proportion of the vote. In terms of the popular vote, uh, what was it? Biden by what, 4 in 2020, right?
It was
4,
4.5.
points ish.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's hard to say Trump's going to win the popular vote because that's a lot of votes to make up across the entire nation.
Right. He has to make up like
Unless,
7 million unless Biden just really falls off.
yeah, which he might.
Right.
But I mean, it's a presidential election year. It's not, a midterm where you might see some drop off with one base and not with the other.
Right.
It'd be hard to see such a big drop off for Biden there, even though he's probably one of the most disliked presidents in recent memory.
Right.
But I think Biden could probably win the popular vote by maybe in a best case scenario for him, two,
Okay.
two and a half, and maybe break even, like a Trump gets even in the popular vote with the best case for Trump.
Right.
Um,
So you think like on average Biden's winning it by like 1.5.
yeah, I think that'd be fair. Somewhere between 1.5 and 2 points nationwide. It's definitely going to get closer unless Trump really drops off or
Right.
both of them drop off at the same rate. Which, if you've looked at the primaries, it's not that likely.
Right, exactly.
Even though the primary turnout has been down for both sides, by proportion, Biden's has been down substantially more.
Right.
So if anything like that holds up in the general election, it's really hard to see Biden, especially given how close 2020 was as it was,
Right. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
there'd be any chance for Biden to win
Yeah,
with anything less than a three
that's
and a half point.
that's the main issue. It's gonna be hard for Biden because he needs to be able to basically the problem with Biden is that he had a really hard coalition to hold on to the next cycle. And I had been saying that for a while, that his coalition was very, very nicely knit together because of very, very specific circumstances that happened in 2020. Obama, it was a lot better because he won by so much that it was like, well, it's probably not going to be that hard for him to kind of rebuild the coalition that he wanted to build up again. It probably wasn't going to be that hard in the first place. And so that's the main issue with, really talking about it because right now Trump is really looking at getting more turnout than Biden. And if you look at some of these states, Biden in the primaries was doing horrible in some of these states, like really bad. He was getting horrific numbers in New York. I think he almost hit like 1 million votes in New York in turnout.
Yeah.
And he's down. Like he's at like he got like 200K or something like that, like something super low. Like something.
Yeah, and you got to look just with other states. You brought up New York, but Michigan was one where I guess you call the unaffiliated vote,
Mhm.
which is really a protest vote.
Right.
The, you see it doing well pretty much across the board. Michigan, especially, which is important because obviously it's working class.
Right.
Texas, which is important because it's the border, and Georgia because it's the black turnout. So he's basically doing worse among everybody.
Yeah, he's
Um,
doing, yeah, pretty
in
much.
turnout.
Right, yeah, that's the problem. And even if whites somehow shift to the right, he's going to be doing worse in turnout with them. So that's also a problem too. So that
Yeah.
may be an issue. That may end up becoming a big issue later on. And so right now, based on the
Yep.
popular vote margin that you gave me and like my demographics that I'm working with, Trump is currently winning the electoral college by a pretty considerable amount. He's winning it basically with all the swing states. He wins Michigan by 2.5. He's winning Pennsylvania by 3.8%. And Minnesota looks to be like a 4.5 win for Biden. And Nebraska, the second district, is actually a 3-point win for Trump. It's like a 2.5 win. So it's similar to his 2016 margin there. So Trump is winning 313 to 225 with your popular vote margin. By the way, just to make it clear, guys, Biden would have to basically win the popular vote by, he'd have to be winning it by about, just to put this in perspective, he is currently, right, if he were to be winning the popular vote by the same amount he won it by last time, the funny part about it is Trump still beats him. Trump still wins the electoral college. He still wins. Now, Georgia, funny enough, is actually the closest state. Arizona is still like a 2-point win. Now, again, if Trump was really winning, if Biden was winning the popular vote by 4.5, the demographics would probably be better for Trump. But just for the sake of the video, or we're going to be looking at this really quick, but it seems like Biden is going to be doing pretty good. It looks like Colorado is almost a 15-point win. New Mexico is looking good for him. It's like a 7-point win. He's winning New Jersey by 11 points. All of these should all be safe. New Hampshire is going to be likely. And New Hampshire, I believe, would probably be more Democratic than it was before. Yeah, it goes up to 8.7%. Nevada is still an easy victory for Trump. Texas, if we go down to Texas, Trump is still winning it by 9. So Trump improves there no matter what. South Carolina, I would even, Trump is still winning South Carolina by over 15, by the way. Alaska is a 10-point win, which is roughly where it was, but Trump is still improving there. He still does better in Hawaii. He still makes gains in Hawaii. In Illinois, if we go down to Illinois, let's find it really quick here. He's still winning it by, Biden's only winning it by 12. So Trump would even still make gains there. In Iowa, he's winning it by 11. Maine is like a roughly a 10-point win. Ohio, same margin as Iowa, roughly. If we look at North Carolina, he's winning it by 4.8 percentage points as of right now. So he's doing relatively well there. And if we go to Virginia, let's go down really quick. He's winning it by 8.4 for, so Trump still makes gains there. Wisconsin, he's winning it by a lean margin. Pennsylvania is still, in this case, Minnesota, I'd assume, would probably be a likely margin. It's 7.3. So Biden actually improves here, which is funny. And then if we look at Maine at large, Biden drops off like 2 points there. And Nebraska second is a tilt Democratic margin. By the way, guys, also with demographic shifts as well as overall, trends in Nebraska second, it is redrawn to be more Republican now. So that's why it is still Democrat here. But Trump still wins the electoral college. Now, if the popular vote were to shift any more left, Georgia and Pennsylvania would actually flip Democrat, and that would give Biden the electoral college, according to the model. Now, again, the demographics would probably be way more different in this scenario. So, are you still there, Connor?
Yeah, I'm still here. I did have a question with the demographics. I
Yeah.
can't see your screen.
Okay.
So can you go over quickly what the demographics are like currently on that model?
Well, for now, I just say I don't have the exact numbers because the way it is that I put them in the model on 538 and then I get the margins and then I stick them in where they need to go. So it's not really your sliding demographics. It's more like you're sliding them on the website and then you plug in the margins into the Google spreadsheet and then it kind of factors it into the full equation and then it spits out models on the other end. But I'd say roughly if Trump was doing, let's go to the Gold Crown Politics model, who's also a pretty talented guy that's also been working on stuff like this as well. If we go down here and we actually just get the 2020 states, and we go down here. Now, overall, if Biden, is performing with the same demographics as 2020, basically the margins are going to match the 2020 results. And so if Biden were to win the popular vote by 4.5 with the 2020 demographics, he does pretty well. He actually now he's winning Georgia more than oh, actually, well, that's still the case. Georgia is a almost 4 points for Biden right now. If we look at Minnesota, he's winning it by 9. He wins Nebraska by 4. Nevada is still Democrat. So even with the 2020 demographics, he's still he only still wins it by tilt margin. North Carolina's still R. Pennsylvania's lean. Biden gains a little bit. Wisconsin's still tilt. Biden gains like a tiny bit. Texas goes down below 5, but it's still like a 4-point win. South Carolina's roughly where it was before. New York still gets closer by a little bit, and New Jersey gets a little bit closer. New Mexico's a little bit more Democratic. New Hampshire goes up to 10 points. A lot of the redder states do get closer. Nebraska's first is right around where it was. Montana is kind of where it was, roughly, so to speak. And Kansas goes down to 12 points. Iowa's a 9-point win. Ohio is a 9-point win, so they do increase. Trump would still win Florida by 6 points, by the way. So that's interesting. And Trump wins Alaska by 8. Arizona is losing it by 1. And so that's roughly where it would sit. So Biden would basically get 303 again.
Yes. So there's how thin the line for Biden is, though, because you just mentioned all the states he has to win, and all the margins in those states were within probably 2 points, if that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
That's the thing.
and that's assuming the 2020 demographics, which likely will shift right regardless.
Roughly, he's probably not
Maybe
even.
that'll depend with the college groups, but
Yeah, that's the problem. He's probably not going to even perform with those margins like that again. He probably won't. So that's his issue.
your turnout.
Right. For some
Turnout and
reason,
margins.
Pennsylvania and Georgia skew more left in this model than like Arizona and Nevada. It probably is because of the demographics and probably just the overall. It's probably also the polling average too is pulling them towards the right more. For example, and the trend here is -7 between 2016 and 2020. So there was a huge democratic shift there. So that's also getting factored into the model too. There was a bigger democratic trend in Georgia than Arizona. So that may be the reason. But I believe that Georgia's probably going to vote to the right of Arizona. But for now, that's what the model's showing. But even with Biden winning the popular vote by the same amount with both demographics, Biden wins, but like it's very finicky. He's winning roughly by about like this. So if I were to just kind of show you really quick, as of right now, roughly Biden would be performing about here. And it's actually funny because I've said that Wisconsin would be the state that no matter what happens, Trump probably ends up losing it. Or Trump probably ends up winning it no matter what. Now, this is what that map roughly looked like. This is basically what it ended up looking like pretty much for the most part. South Carolina was likely and Kansas was too. So based out of what I saw from there, Illinois is probably well, actually, I don't even think it was safe. I think it was likely still. But roughly, this is where that map sat at. So Wisconsin and Nevada would be the closest states. North Carolina would be tilt R, and Texas would be lean R, because Trump would de-improve just a little bit there. But I don't even think he's gonna not improve there. I don't think that's gonna happen because of the border. And North Carolina, as of right now, I think is gonna be a lock for Republicans too. So Trump's floor is already 235. And I've essentially said that because of Biden's poor turnout, he's probably already losing Georgia too. So Trump's really at 251. So unlike last cycle, Trump, or both cycles really, Trump actually has a much better advantage in the electoral college because depending on his electoral vote stance, he's either sitting at, 251, or you can even make the case that he's sitting at 261 with Wisconsin, even depending on how you look at that, or maybe even Nevada, because Nevada is heavily Hispanic and Hispanics are shifting to the right. So you could even say that could be there. But just because of the fact it hasn't voted Republicans since 2004, I'm not going to put it in that column. But more than likely, this is his floor. And really, the only state he needs to win is Pennsylvania. And so, what's funny is that obviously, I think on election day, I might have you helping with this while I stream, but I might be able to, if Trump's doing really good with the exit polling data, the election might be able to be called pretty early because, hello?
Let's hope. Yeah,
I
let's
would
hope.
hope so because I would think so because by the time we'd get around like 10 p.m., you'd probably they'd already call Idaho and Utah poll closing. So the election by like 10 p.m. probably, because what would happen is, this is what I'm thinking, because the first states that they start counting is like Indiana, Kentucky, Vermont. Those would get called at poll closings. That's just my guess. Those probably get called. They start counting Georgia, North Carolina, a couple of these. So they start going here, and then they do the northeastern states. I'd say they probably call some of these. I don't think they actually call New Jersey just yet, or I don't think they call New Jersey yet, or even New York even. Yeah, because it gets starts getting counted later. But you get about here, they start counting Florida. I think Florida's gonna be called super early. I think they're gonna call it very early. It's gonna be called probably an hour within counting, maybe even less. I think they're gonna call it
Right.
early. You could even make the same case for Ohio. I think by the time that they do that, it's already going to be there. I think Colorado pretty much gets called at poll closing as well. And I also think the same for like Illinois, probably, and New York by now would get called. Then you'd have, these get called. I think Texas gets called pretty early too. And then, the West Coast would get called. So roughly by about, you know, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., we're about here. And then Virginia would get called. New Jersey gets called. Iowa gets called. And then from here, Trump's already at 216. And I think that North Carolina and Georgia would be called. And that puts him at 248. And now here's the problem on election night. The thing is that the poll closings in Alaska don't happen until like 1 a.m. And Pennsylvania starts counting pretty early. So if Trump's looking really good in exit polling data, I could probably call Pennsylvania. The problem is that Alaska's not there yet. So he'd be sitting right there, and I wouldn't be able to project him because the rule for me on election day is that I'm not going to call anything until the actual poll closing happens in the state, regardless of what state it is. And so even if Trump is in Georgia and Pennsylvania and he's sitting right here, they're not going to be able to call the election until minimum like 1 a.m. probably. But now that I'm thinking about it, because he would need these 3 electoral votes out of Alaska, unless he wins Wisconsin outright and he just picks it off. Which, not gonna lie, if he wins, if I project Pennsylvania for him, I'm probably gonna call Wisconsin for him too. That's what I'll probably end up doing, to be honest. And like,
Yeah.
even if Wisconsin is like 50-60% in, if I'm calling Pennsylvania, I'm gonna call Wisconsin already. That's what I mean, it is what it is. That's probably what I'm gonna end up doing. Just because it was one of the closer states in 2020, and the Rust Belt usually tends to vote together. So if he's winning Pennsylvania, Georgia by like 9, 10 p.m., and Alaska's the only state he needs left that he would for sure win out of these, then I would just call Wisconsin for him because more than likely he would probably win Wisconsin. I can't see a scenario where Biden wins I could see Biden winning Michigan, but not Wisconsin or Pennsylvania. But I can't see him winning Pennsylvania, but not Michigan and Wisconsin. Like that I can't see happening. Even though the polling does suggest that, depending on what you're looking at, but I can't see that happening. I just can't. So in terms of like actual election night, it may be a pretty early race. It may be early. If Trump's looking real, because they called Georgia early for him in 2016. They called it at like 8 or 9 p.m. They called it pretty early. So
That depends on the network, I think. I think some called it one of the latest states. Because sometimes
it wasn't like
I'll
super,
watch elections,
super
but
early, but it wasn't super late like 2020 either. It wasn't that late.
yeah, it wasn't like called a poll closing like Indiana or Kentucky or some of those states,
Right.
but it
But it wasn't
certainly
called
wasn't
like, it
called
wasn't the last,
by the time you were.
it wasn't
Yeah.
like the last two states. So I'd say if Trump's winning it, probably it's called at like 8 or 9 p.m. probably, because you would look at exit polling, and if Biden's doing really bad with like black voters and Trump's doing okay and decent with white voters, I'd probably be able to call Georgia pretty early. And then at that point, he might be right about there. And depending on his lead in Pennsylvania, if Trump is leading by like a lot, like probably if he's leading Pennsylvania, like if he is at 60% in and Trump's up by like 20 points in Pennsylvania or more, I'd probably call it for him already. Because he was up by like 17 at like 65% in 2020 and lost it. So if he's up by over 20 at around that range, he probably does win it. So at that point, depending on like exit polling data, we may wait until it gets closer, like maybe 75, 80% in. But at that point, if he's leading by like if he's leading by like 15 points with 80% in, I'm calling it for him. Because even at that point, there'd be no way that Biden makes up the votes with mail-in voting. I don't think he would. Now, that's why exit polling is important, because if Biden's doing similar with blacks and similar with those and turnout is high, then I can't call Pennsylvania. But if turnout's very low, and if like the city areas the turnout's low, and if we look at the counties and we see that, you know, Philadelphia's almost all in, like if all the major city areas are almost all in and most of the areas that are coming in are just rules, then I'm going to call it for Trump at like 70, 80% in left to go. And if I call Pennsylvania
Yeah.
for him, then I'm calling Wisconsin, because he would have to be winning Wisconsin if he's getting Pennsylvania. More than likely. Like the statistical chance that he wins Pennsylvania but not Wisconsin is almost impossible. So really, the most important states for Trump to get is Georgia and Pennsylvania. Those are the most important states for him to get the whole cycle. If he can get those two, he's 100% winning the election.
Yeah.
He would 100%.
And that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't even take into account what happens in Nevada or Arizona
Nope.
or the
Nope.
rest of the Rust
No,
Belt,
look,
which
he could
is
literally
exactly why those are so important.
he could literally lose. Look, he could legit lose Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan, but win Pennsylvania and Georgia and still win the election. So that's why I just tell him I don't think he's gonna lose any of the states he won last time. I don't think so. I mean, Utah and Kansas, okay, yeah, whatever. They're gonna go Republican. Maybe in a worst case scenario, if they're trending left, like people claim, maybe they shift a few points left. But I don't even think that's gonna be the case, because even polling doesn't suggest that. And Trump is actually ahead in Utah by like 8 to 10 points, and the polls there are super underestimating Trump. They like underestimate him by like 10 plus points all the time there. So he probably wins it by over 15. And so he really needs Georgia. If he can get Georgia, he's really close to winning. Because at that point, he just need Pennsylvania. That's basically it.
Yeah. So
Now,
you were talking about the, I guess, 2020 coalition Trump had, which is basically his floor, debatably, for this cycle.
Mhm.
North Carolina, I don't know why Democrats are contesting North Carolina. Is RFK on the ballot there?
I'm not.
I think I saw that.
I think he might be getting signatures there. I don't know if he's on it yet. I think he might. Oh no, I think he is. I think he did get enough signatures there. Actually, I think he did.
Yeah. So if there is any Democrat hopes of having a two-way race in North Carolina where somehow Biden pulls off a miracle, that can go out the window.
Yeah,
It can officially go out the window now.
yeah,
It was out the
because
window
at that
before,
point,
but it's
yeah,
out the window
because
now.
Georgia, that would cancel, because Georgia and North Carolina would cancel each other out basically. That would cancel them out, because then now Trump would be at 251 with Pennsylvania, because North Carolina would cancel out Georgia. So from here, Trump would have to do more work. He'd have to win both Wisconsin and Arizona, because really what happens is that North Carolina just replaces Georgia. Like if they flip each other, like if they vote opposite of how we think it doesn't really change the math, except now Pennsylvania, he would need Pennsylvania. Or, well, really, if you really think about it, in each scenario, in every scenario, I have Trump. Like when I project the states on election night, if he's winning Pennsylvania, he's winning Wisconsin. So no matter what, that's not gonna really change. Now with North Carolina, I'd say maybe he probably, like, if this happens, then Trump could win with like a combination of New Hampshire and Nevada. He could win with Minnesota. He could win with Arizona, which would be his most likely path, or maybe even Michigan. That could even be something interesting. Maybe he picks off the Rust Belt, but like loses North Carolina. I don't think that's gonna happen, but I mean, we'll wait and see. But roughly on election night, this is probably what the electoral. I mean, North Carolina is going to be called super early. I think North Carolina, they're going to call it at like 7. Like, they're going to call that early. It got called early in 2016. So I think by the time that we get to like 8 or like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., or like, well, not really 10 or 11 because they're still counting some, but I think like by 11 p.m., 12 p.m., this is what it looks like. This is probably what it looks like, more than likely. By 12 a.m., they'd probably have Georgia called at that point. New Hampshire would probably be called for Biden, and I think Minnesota and Maine would be too. And you would basically we'd be stuck here, pretty much. We'd be here. And then the long counting would ensue and everything for a pretty long time. And by the time we get to like 1 a.m., I could see maybe this. And the reason why I'd say Pennsylvania, hello?
Yep, I'm here.
I'd say that he probably gets Pennsylvania first called. And the reason why I say that is because it's the earliest swing state besides North Carolina to start counting. And if Trump's really winning it by 3 points, like your model shows, they're going to call that early.
Yep.
Earlier compared to before. So I'd say that he gets Pennsylvania called on election night before Wisconsin if he's winning it by 2 or 3. Now, if it's really close, then I don't know. But because even like if you notice, like with they called Wisconsin first for Trump. They called it first, like in 2016. They called it for him, and he was like right there. And then he had Arizona, so he was like right there. He was like so close. He was like barely losing or something like that. I think what it
Yep.
was is that Alaska hadn't been called yet, or Hawaii. So he was at like 260, 266. I think that's what he was at. Or no, well, actually, it's funny because back then he won Nebraska second. I think he was like at 267 back then. This is what it looked like roughly. It was looking like this pretty much. That's what the electoral map was basically looking like in 2016. Like by the time that we were getting closer to him winning, as of right now, I have Trump winning all the major swing states, plus, and then Biden gets Minnesota. That's what I have it right now because I think Trump probably wins the popular vote by like maybe a point or two. But that mostly is due to the fact that he gets really good margins in Texas and Florida and California and New York get closer. So it kind of balances out the dispersion of votes, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm telling people just because Trump's leading in the popular vote doesn't mean he's like guaranteed a huge victory. I mean, if Trump's winning the popular vote, his chances of winning the electoral college are very high, but it may still be close because really what it could be is that Texas shifts right, Florida shifts right, and New York and California all shift right together. And that kind of offsets the weird thing where California and New York basically give the Democrat the popular vote, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's roughly what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, you can't be idle this year.
No.
You gotta
Yeah.
put the work in.
Yeah. Everybody's gonna
Reach out to voters. Do what Scott Pressler's doing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
get
we're
it done.
gonna have to really work on that. But thank you. So also Jason Christie for 2 says if RFK is on the ballot in Nebraska, Trump wins Nebraska second. I think that's true. I think that's 100% true actually. But thank you so much for the call and I really appreciate it. I know we talked for a while, but I really do appreciate it. So you have a good one.
Yep. There's some people waiting in
Yeah, I
the
know.
Discord, but
I know
I'll
there is.
let you get to them now.
So all right, thank you. See you.
Yep.
American Spiritual Politics is next. Hello.
What's up, On Point?
What's up? How you doing, man?
I'm okay. I'm just browsing around the computer like always.
But all right.
What questions you got for me? I'll see if I can answer them.
So pretty much in terms of like we're gonna go back to swingometer because we were on the electro map for a while. But we're gonna go back to swingometer now. So basically, based out of like your analysis, where do you think the demographic margins for all of these margins that you see on my screen will probably be sitting at in 2024? These are all the 2020 margins, by the way. FYI. Based out.
You can't see it because the stream is about 30 seconds delayed, so
Well, once it pops up right now, for example, 18 to 29-year-old votes is D plus 29, 30 to 44 is D plus 24, 45 to 64 is R plus 5, and 65 plus is 11. That's what it's looking like right now.
I think that the youth vote is going to shift more in favor of Trump, if I'm being totally honest. Everybody that I've talked to, at least many of them, in a blue state, seem to be shifting more Republican because they see that their future is being destroyed by the current incumbent president and they want to get some change.
Okay, so what do you
Let's
think?
be real. If we can, there are a bunch of 18 to 29 voters that would vote Republican if we can get them out.
Right. Yeah, and that's definitely true too. You know, a lot of people like if you don't get people to turn out, then they're just not gonna go out. Like it's just true. So, and if you actually look, we saw new data. This was actually my last video, but it shows the newer the voter, the more likely they actually are to support Trump. It's funny because Trump's probably gonna win the election due to new votes. Like people who haven't voted before are gonna heavily favor Trump by like a 2-1 margin, like something ridiculous. Like it's like a big margin.
Yeah, but you
So
should also worry about the border and all those people
right and all
coming
that.
in.
Right. Well, I think that when it comes to illegals voting, I think it's gonna be a lot harder for people than it seems. I think it would be pretty shocking if like Texas were to be super close because like a million illegals voted. Also, Texas does require a photo ID. Like you have to have a photo ID to vote.
Yeah, I'm well aware of Texas, but states like Michigan, I know somebody in Michigan. In Michigan, you can just, if you don't have an ID on you, you can just sign an affidavit to get a ballot.
Well, that's pretty concerning, at least for like Michigan. But I feel like Trump's lead in the RCP aggregate and just the overall mood, I think we can beat the supposed, certain activities, so YouTube doesn't demonetize me. Um, that could possibly happen. I think we could get past that, but I just don't know how big it would be. I think it's gonna be less than 2020, but I think it's gonna be more than 2016 because there was still stuff going on in 2016. People just don't talk about that. But Trump was right. Trump probably realistically, in a hypothetical scenario, quote unquote, Trump theoretically did probably win the popular vote in 2016, and he probably did win Nevada, and he probably did win Colorado. Like he probably did a lot better. Uh, he probably did do a lot better in that one than even like probably 2020. Probably 2020. He probably just won Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia. 2016 he might have done way better actually. Jason Christie for 2 says military votes will move Virginia to the right. I mean, that could possibly happen. That may not be something crazy. So you may be onto something, Jason. But
I would not be surprised one bit if he flips Virginia. I would also not be surprised if he flips one wild card like New York, or which as I said from day one, I don't think he's going to flip New York, but it is possible, and you cannot rule it out because
well,
people
the
in New York are
problem
fed
with
up with
that
him.
is that he would have to do really well with African Americans. He'd have to do pretty well to the point where like blacks would have to shift. I'm actually going to show you this, but he'd have to, let's see what happens if I just shift blacks alone, right? If I'm just shifting African Americans alone, if I keep going, look, hello.
Yeah,
If you
the
look at my
screen's
screen,
delayed, so I don't see it yet.
I'm only shifting African Americans right now. So you could see that right now they are tied. So I have African Americans tied, and Trump is still winning 325 to 213.
Interesting.
And Republicans, if we keep going, right? If it goes up to like he wins Delaware before New York. He actually wins Delaware before New Jersey, before New Hampshire, before Minnesota. Like he's doing, yeah. And let's keep going. He's up by
Honestly,
he wins Maryland before New York, by the way. He hasn't gotten to New York yet. He's still
yeah,
and he wins
I would
Illinois
honestly,
before New York. He wins it before New York. The white vote would have to shift a couple points. New Jersey would still go. Minnesota would still go red before. New Hampshire would still
interesting.
go before. He'd basically have to win. Okay, now it finally went. So he's winning blacks by 50 and the white vote by 23. And he's barely winning New York.
Yeah, as I said, if it's
That's the
like
problem. That's the main
if it's an
problem. Right.
yeah, I was gonna say if it's an extremely good night for him, he can pull it off. But I don't think he's going to pull it off, and he will not pull it off but unless it's like an absolute great night for him.
Well, if he's okay, well, I mean, if Trump is winning the 18 to 29-year-old vote by like let's say 5 points, and then Biden is winning 30 to 44 by like only 15, Trump is winning 45 to 65 by 10. The senior vote moves to the right by like a couple points. That puts him winning the popular vote by 5. College educated voters go down to like 13 are for Trump, for 13 for Biden. Non-college go to like 13 for Trump, so that puts him winning New Jersey, Illinois, Oregon. The female vote would have to get a little bit closer, and males would have to shift a little bit. He's still not winning it yet. He's still not winning it. It's close, but he's not even winning it yet.
As I said, New
It's
York would be a very
it's
hard
within
one to flip
yeah, it's
at
within
the
a
end of the
point.
day.
It's within a point, but there's a lot of people that think that unless there's some crazy scenario in New York where the turnout just, I actually think the only way that Trump would probably win New York in a competitive election where it's like all the swing states are the same, but New York just moves to the right is if he goes to jail. That's the only way he would win it.
Probably.
If Trump
Also,
if Trump physically goes to jail, especially because you know that he's trying to go to his son's graduation, and they said if he goes and he doesn't have an agreement to be in court or whatever the case is, like if they don't work around that and he just goes to watch his son graduate, he will be arrested. Like physically, like they're gonna go and arrest him. So
yeah, that's ridiculous.
and if they tell him no, I feel like he's still going to go to his graduation. So the chance of Trump getting arrested this year is way higher than before because I feel like even if they tell him he can't go, I feel like he's still going to go to his son's graduation. I that's just my opinion. I think he'd still go. So his chances are very, very, very likely in New York. If that were to happen, the polling would probably shift towards him a lot. Now,
Do you think,
let's say
speaking of this case, do
Mhm.
you think it gets to the Supreme Court?
That I don't know. I'd really have to look at that. But let's say the popular vote is tied, or like let's say he's winning it by 5. So let's say he's winning the popular vote by about like 5 points, right? New York, if we go to it, is an 8 point win. So in order for Trump to win it, he'd have to be up in the polling data. According to my model, he'd have to be up in the polling data by 27 points to win. Now,
Which obviously that's not going to happen.
right. But now again, if Trump goes to jail, the demographic pool may also shift and the popular vote may be higher. So it really depends. But if he's winning the popular vote by 5 and the polling would have to be R plus 27 for my model to show him narrowly winning the state while all the other states are the same. That's the main problem with it.
Interesting.
That's the problem with him winning it because also too my model weighs the different results from 2016 and 2020 in the demographic pool and the polling result and the trend, so it involves a bunch of different things. So Trump would have to be up in the polling aggregate by like 30 points to win New York or to even have a chance. Like I don't know, it would be very difficult.
He'll flip Colorado before he flips New York.
Yeah, more than likely, yeah, he probably would do that. Unless
The only reason I brought New York up anyway was
unless white shift left by like quite a bit. Like if left shift like if whites are only like R plus 5, but like Hispanics are like and blacks shift massively to the right, then you can make the case that that's probably what would happen. But other than that, I don't know.
Also, I want to get your opinion on something. What do you think of the motion to vacate stuff that's going on Capitol Hill?
Well, to be honest with you, I think right now, honestly, I don't know what's gonna happen with that. I'm really, really kind of iffy about it. We'll see what happens, but I am very, very iffy on them trying to vacate Speaker Johnson right before an election. It almost seems like they're trying to sabotage him. However, I understand that there are concerns about him, with the whole Ukraine package and stuff like that. I don't agree with him on that, but I think he is far better than McCarthy and a lot of people that we could have had. And I think that MGT is really an idiot. I don't like her.
MTG. MTG.
Yeah, MTG. I said that. I think she's an idiot. I don't like her. I don't. I don't like her at all.
I am. If I lived in Georgia, as you obviously know, I don't live in Georgia. I would have mounted a primary bid against her.
Frankie Jr. in the chat says, my in-laws are black. The mugshot made them go from apolitical to now. They're targeting this man for no reason like they do us. We're voting for him. That mugshot won him 2024. Well, his optics look a lot better now compared to before.
Someone else.
Yeah. By the way, guys, just to let you guys know, the whole, scenario where, oh my God, Biden's gonna win because, Trump's gonna win Wisconsin, Nevada, and Georgia, but not win Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania seems to be very unlikely. And the reason why I say that is because for the demographics for that to take place, it would make zero sense because I've been trying to play around with the Swingomatic and I can't get it to happen. I can't. Like, it physically will not happen because Nevada votes to the left of Arizona in every scenario, no matter how I play around with the demographics. But essentially, for that to happen, Trump would have to do way worse with white voters, probably do way worse with female voters, and perform only a little bit better with males, but blacks and Hispanics would shift like 30 and 40 points to the right. Like, that makes no
Honestly,
sense. That makes no sense because and Nevada and Arizona, it's just such a close thing. And like Wisconsin, like it doesn't make sense. In the past two cycles, the winner usually wins all of the really close swing states. If you've noticed, the winner usually ends up taking all the close ones. I mean, in 2016, Hillary took New Hampshire, but like and she took Nevada, but usually it's a lopsided thing where one of the candidates always gets over 300. It's never a oh, is he gonna win it or not? Like, it's never like, oh, because back then, yes, of course, with Bush and Al Gore, yeah, okay, whatever. It was a really close election, but if you notice something about that election, also, Jason Christie for $2 says, what do you think the best case for the GOP in the Senate is? I think their best case is like over 60 because you'd have Pennsylvania flipping, New Mexico, you'd have Minnesota probably wouldn't flip, but I'd even say Virginia and Maryland and maybe even New Jersey would be on the table because New Hampshire, they're going to pick a good candidate. New Jersey, if there's really high third party turnout and Republicans are winning the popular vote by like 5, then maybe there's a chance there. And if Republicans are winning the popular vote by like 5 points and a really good night for Trump and Larry Hogan does really good in Maryland, they could pick it off. But that's like a very overshot, like very, very overshot scenario, in my opinion.
honestly, I don't think it's going to happen at the end of the day, but Virginia Senate race, that's a possible flip because we're running Hungao,
Yeah,
and
and he's
Hungao seems to be well liked.
he's really good. Yeah, he's a very good candidate, and he's running against Tim Kaine. And if the electorate is a very like change electorate, like a I want change electorate, then he's gonna do pretty good.
Mhm. Either way,
Right.
it's the
Now,
entirety of the political.
now I will say this. If the election's razor thin, I could say the one swing state Biden does hold on to is Arizona. I could say that's his best state, even better than Michigan, because Michigan's going to have a lot more right-leaning white working class voters there, and the automotive industry is there, and you have the whole Gaza thing. So all those factors are going to make Michigan a better state for Trump than even Arizona. And the reason why I say that is because Maricopa is really bad for Republicans. And that's the main reason why the state's probably going to end up being a Democratic stronghold in the future. But at least right now, it's like, okay, well, maybe Trump does all right. Like, you could say, okay, maybe, but like, I think the one swing state that Biden probably does take, like, if he had to get one, it would probably be Arizona, and Trump would still be at 301 to 237. So he'd still get over 300, like I've been saying, because I said, like, usually the winning candidate will get over 300. So he would still get over 300 in that scenario. Now, Gold Crown Politics, I'm going to talk about his thing because his is pretty interesting. He has Trump winning the popular vote by 8, and he's really confident in Trump winning it by 8. Now, The reason why he's super confident in that margin is because the polls underestimate Trump by 1 to 2 points, give or take, and hello?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, so he says the polls underestimate Trump by 3 to 4 points. So if Trump's leading the aggregate by 1 or 2, the actual popular vote could be anywhere from 4 to 5. And then he thinks third party candidates are going to give him about, you know, 3 points, 2 points. So he could be anywhere from like a 7 to 10 point margin, 6 to 10 points, depending on how good of a night he does. And I was like, well, that seems pretty unrealistic. But if you think about it, it may not be that off, because I'm gonna go over this. So hold on. I know it sounds crazy, and I thought it was too, but the more I watched this video, the more I was like, whoa, he might actually have a point here. So if we look at the polling aggregate right now, he's up by 0.4, right? So if the polls are off by the same amount they were in 2020, Trump wins the popular vote by like 4.5, because they were off by like 4 point something. So he wins it around there. And if third party candidates are splitting votes away, then Trump probably wins the popular vote around where he's saying. Now the one-way race, or the five-way race, has him up by 1.7. So if the polls are off by 4, Trump's winning the popular vote by 5.7. So I mean,
Honestly,
he actually
forward.
has, yeah, I'm going to tell you what he has the election at. He has Trump winning New Mexico, Minnesota, Virginia, and I don't think he has him winning New Hampshire, but I think he has him winning, well, does he? I think he does, actually. Yeah, no, he does have him winning New Hampshire. This is what he has the election at right now. I told him that that was pretty crazy, but the more that I was looking at this, the more it actually makes sense, because he has a model that's pretty straightforward. And what it is that he basically gets he kind of looks at the shift from 2012 to 2020, and he has an average shift, and then he looks at how the state voted to the relative of the nation in 2020, and then does the math for how he thinks it's going to vote in 2024 based off the previous results. And then what I did is I basically apply demographics from his end to what the model says without demographics, and it kind of gave me this, and it gives me the same map that he has it at, and it's factored in with the popular vote too. So he has winning Arizona by 9. He has Maine at a 2 point win, which he doesn't have Trump winning Maine, but so this may be slightly off. But if Trump's winning the popular vote by 8, I mean, he's gonna get over 340 if he's winning it by 8. So his model itself may not be wrong. Also, he got 2020. You know that he's the only person that I know that got 2020 like 100% correct. He was, it's gold crown politics. He's new, but he basically has this model. And what he did is he saw, okay, he basically got the average of the polls of the election from a month before, and he saw, okay, Biden's leading by 8.2, the polls underestimate him by 3.5, so he projected Biden's popular vote win at 5.2, and it was actually 4.5, so he was off by a point. And he predicted Georgia flipping. He actually got Georgia right. He literally got every state right. Now the margins are iffy, but he called every single state correct. If we would have applied like a demographic thing to his model, he probably would have gotten all the margins correct. He probably would have gotten a lot of the margins almost spot on. So as for his analysis, he's been pretty solid. And so looking at this, if Trump is really going to win the popular vote by 8, he may not be wrong. I just don't think Trump's going to win the popular vote by 8. I think Trump probably wins it by like 1, maybe 2 points. And the reason why I think that is, if you look at 538, the thing is, even in like CNN exit polls, if you look at CNN exit polls in 2020, here's the thing. Biden was ahead by 52% favorable to 46%. And Trump was down 46%, 42%. And the popular vote was 51.2 minus 46.7. So it's actually funny, because you could even make the case that third parties being in 2020, despite them not getting a lot of the vote, actually helped Trump in the electoral college. They actually still helped him even more, because usually third party candidates tend to hurt the incumbent But in this case, it actually did help him because if you look, Trump would have lost the popular vote by 6, according to this. But you see, roughly the approval ratings, they roughly sit around there in the popular vote. And so right now, Biden is sitting at 40.7% in his approval rating.
Interesting.
In 1996, Bill Clinton had a 54% approval rating on election day. He got 49 because Ross Perot got a high vote share. In 2004, Bush was sitting at around, we'll actually check right now. We'll actually just go check. Bush on election day in 2004 was sitting at, let's look. He was at, I guess it's like what, around November, around this time. 51.5%. He ended up getting like 51% of the popular vote. He got around there. If we go to Obama in 2012, right around here, I guess November 5th, he was at 50, 51. He got 51%, right around there. Oh, I think Romney was like around 47-ish, 48-ish. And if we look at Trump ended up with a, let's look here. I think November 3rd was the election. He was down minus 6.6. He was at 45.6% here, which is right around the CNN exit poll. And he ended up getting 46.7%. His disapproval was 52.5. Biden got 51.7. So you can make the argument the better the candidate, the higher they would have been close to 52.5. Roughly
Yeah,
take.
if Romney was not the nominee in 2012, we probably could have taken out Obama, but it still would have been a long shot.
It would have been really iffy because Biden, he was polling above 50%. He was
True.
polling above
Another thing I
50%,
also
so
wanna-
that would have been really hard. I mean, they could have done it. It was possible, but it would have been really difficult. Biden would have, the Obama would have had to have won the popular vote by like 2 points or less, pretty much. So we basically have a Taylor Swift, and we have a Swiftie in the chat pretty much. Renato Laura is saying a bunch of stuff about Trump and how his stocks are doing and does he even have money for his campaign. We'll actually talk about that right now, if she wants to get into that. His stocks are actually looking great. He netted like $4 billion off the True Social, $5 billion. And if we look at, Trump raising, $50.5 million, which I did a video on, I mean, he beat Biden's, fundraiser from the other day. A few days later, he held a fundraiser and he did double what Biden did. And Biden had 3 presidents there. So I don't know what you're talking about. And as for how's the bond going, well, he never went to jail, so he's not on bond. And in terms of how the
I
court
think he's
trial,
talking
how the
about,
court
I
trial is
think he's
going.
talking a 175 million bond.
Well, they had to lower. Either way, they had to lower it for him because if they were gonna give him, if they were gonna do $500,000, it was gonna look bad, and so they had no choice but to lower it. And he was gonna be able to pay it off anyways because he netted like $4 billion, even if he doesn't have access to this money. I mean, going to get locked up. Well, it's going to be pretty hard for them to get him locked up if he is having a hung jury, which more than likely is going to be the case, because people see that this is political. It's BS. That's why there's a hung jury in the first like couple days, because they can't find anybody to incriminate him, because there's at least one person that's like, well, this doesn't make any sense. That's the whole point of a juror. That's literally the whole point. That's why it has to be unanimous, because there has to be a certain threshold for it to be okay. Well, if there's a decent enough of the population that thinks that he's going to, you know, if there's a decent amount of the population that thinks he's going to end up losing, or like that thinks that this is political, BS, then that's the whole point. So more than likely, he's probably not. He'll be fine. Now, whether or not he gets convicted or not, I'm not going to sit here and say he won't get convicted because it's possible, but I think it's very likely he does not because they can't find a jury that is going to basically end up meeting their standards. They literally cannot find them. So that's basically to tell that viewer that.
Again, that's going to be something that we won't know until the time happens.
Right, yeah, we won't know. But
one thing I want to bring up is the fundraising and that other stuff. People said the GOP was going to fall apart under Watley and Lara, but it's really not going to be. Someone in the chat says, "I live in New York City. People are shifting to Trump here, or at least not enthusiastic to Biden. The only way Trump loses is if he decides to drop out."
right.
But either way, what I was gonna say all about this
Right.
is, well, first of all, I'm kind of losing my mind here. It's kind of late,
Yeah.
but regardless, I definitely think that that he could pull it off, considering that the economy is the number one issue. The border is number two. I might
Well,
have those
actually,
linked.
immigration is really number one now. If you really look at it, it is number one now.
And do you think what happened with Mayorkas and the Senate dismissing the impeachment articles? Do you think
That's gonna give Republicans a sort of a boost. Not as much as people think, because not a lot of people are paying attention. Let's be honest, but I definitely think that is gonna actually give them a boost that they need because it gives the Democrats it lowers their credibility. Like, so that's basically it. But guys, I am going to end the stream here. Red Eagle is about to stream in 15 minutes, so if you guys want to go look at that, not really 15, maybe a little bit more, but or maybe he is live. I don't know. Let me see, because I got.
He's not live yet.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, okay, in like about 18 minutes. So in about 18 minutes, he's gonna go live. So I'll be watching that, and you guys should also all go watch it. So if you guys did enjoy this stream, please hit the like button. Everybody that's in here, please hit it. There's 46 people in here. So whoever hasn't hit it, go ahead and hit it now. Make sure to subscribe to the channel because I am going to be doing more content like this. I am going to be doing streams. I will be doing videos, as always. And I'm actually going to be ending my college semester soon. And so I will be able to interact with everybody and kind of talk a lot more now. So if you guys did enjoy this, please hit the like button, subscribe. Make sure to hit the post bell and make sure to follow Twitter and join the Discord so you can join our next call in and talk to everybody. And I hope to see you guys very, very soon.